Just press the Let's Go Live button. We are very excited to be with you here today from new scenery. You can see we've got some very interesting artwork on the wall behind us. These are dogs and cats dressed up as different characters. That's Elvis the dog. That's Snoop Dogg. And there are many others. We're at an Airbnb in Sedona, our last day and night here. We're heading back to the valley tomorrow. And so we'll be back in the regular digs, picking up with Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. We're excited for all of that. And I'm going to apologize in advance for the interwebs. Sometimes the interweb is working nicely, other times not so nicely. But it looks like the tubes have connected themselves. That's tremendous because we've got some business to attend to today, my friends. And so let's go ahead and do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia, and today we're talking about the Trump assassination. We got some more fallout on that because Speaker Mike Johnson has come out and also announced the 7 Republicans who are going to be on the committee. We're going to go through some of them, and we're going to pay close attention to Representative Higgins, who has already come out with an announcement explaining what his role will be. But there's also some new video that is out there that's pretty interesting footage from someone who was on the ground outside of the AGR building when everything was going down. It's about 7 minutes. We're going to go through it. There will be some content warning explications, expletives flying out, because, you know, it was an assassination attempt, so we can understand that. But we'll go through it. So if you're concerned about that, of course, be forewarned. We'll talk about all of that. There's also some new stories about how this gunman was ahead of the Secret Service. The New York Times had this. We have Whitmer's out here, and Trump has agreed to sit down for an interview as a victim with the FBI. And so we'll go through that, see what that story has for us, and get some reaction. So all that's coming up. And then we also have some Supreme Court news because the Supreme Court is under attack. Biden administration came out. It's really the Harris administration. Joe Biden is fully sidelined now. Everything we see is about Harris, 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 Harris. They're very excited for her, or at least they're faking like they're excited. It's like when you get a new thing, you're like, I love this. I never take them off my feet. And then you realize, it's like any other pair of shoes. Relax, calm down. You're being ridiculous. It's just like any other politician. They'll move on. But we got Supreme Court news because they're saying that SCOTUS is in hot water. Okay, unless you do exactly what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want, well, you're not a good person. You're an ethical violator. And so they're saying that the Supreme Court should come to heel. And we'll go through that. We got reaction. Speaker Mike Johnson, again, is saying all this stuff is dead on arrival. So don't get too excited out there, libs. And all of that will be coming up. A little bit of a shorter show today because our internet's pretty terrible. And so we'll see what you say about all of this at the end of the show before we head on over and hang out on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do great members only streams. If you missed us this morning, we were live already once today talking about a lot of the election stuff. 2024 is right around the corner. It's bedlam out there. And so if you want to come join us, become a member on YouTube or on Locals. We'd love to have you. And we have a lot of fun. We have the best membos on the whole planet, the solar system, and even the galaxy. So we got business to attend to today, my friends. Let's get right into it. And we'll start with this one because this is very curious. We'll see here this video. A new video has been released. This one was initially detained and retained by the FBI pending their analysis, and now it has become public. We're catching it from this guy, Matt Lautner, over on X at Matt Lautner, and it's a good one. It's 7 minutes. There is some profanity in here, so be forewarned about that. But it's from the ground, and it's showing us that well before the shooting ever took place, the cops were freaked, man. The local cops were running around trying to get their bearings straight because apparently they knew that there was a shooter or somebody very concerning on the roof. And then the shots go off. And then we'll hear the aftermath on what went down. And so it's just a really incredible video. I'm expecting to see a lot more of these. In fact, I'm surprised we haven't seen a lot more of them already. And this one has some high quality. A lot of the other footage we've seen has been mostly potato quality. I think 24p by 24p or whatever. So this is much better footage. If you want to follow along at home, this is at the top of our timeline for your records. But this is what Matt Lautner is sharing with us. And so we'll go through this and spend a little time on it, explaining what's going on. But at 5:02 p.m., we have Dave Stewart, the person who's recording this, and others were told that they were trespassing and they were asked to leave the area between the AGR building and the Trump rally, which was the grass viewing area. And we recall, they were wondering why this entire region was just left open and completely unguarded. We saw that Senator Chuck Grassley sent a request into DHS, into the Secret Service, saying, why are these all color coded? Like that's controlled, that's patrolled. We got all of this under scrutiny, except this one little strip over here, a little concerning. And other people were saying, you could just pull up a car, right? Just pull up a car, just unload your weapons and just pink, 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 start taking off people, because there was literally no security. And we know that because the shooter was moseying around forever and decided to go climb on a roof. So here's how the footage starts. It says, Sniper's Nest video is released by Dave Stewart, is the person who's responsible for this. Thank you to Dave, of Butler, Pennsylvania. This is from the attack on American democracy, where Donald Trump was the target, on J13 2024, the attempted assassination. Now, after this all took place, the FBI confiscated his phone, recently returned it to him, which allowed him to upload it. And you'll notice here at the bottom right of the video is the time code, 5:02, well before the shooting took place. And so let's parse through this video now.
Okay. This is no trespassing. Oh,
sorry, we didn't see any signs.
Okay, let's play this. Hopefully it plays for us. It was playing just a second ago. Let's try this again. See if this will load for us. It's okay. We're in the middle of a live show. Don't worry about it.
okay. This is no trespassing. Oh,
sorry, we didn't see any signs.
5:02 p.m. And what this looks like to me is they're clearing the area.
This guy's kicking everybody out.
They know this is a vulnerability that has been missed.
He's raging. This guy's raging.
Okay, so then we fast forward now. So you'll see the time just shifted. So that was about 5:10, and they're clearing people out. And I think you would imagine they're going, oh, where are all these people setting up? They've got a direct line of sight into the rally, right? They could probably just plink somebody from there, right? And that's not good at all. So they start clearing them out about an hour before. Then we fast forward. The time frame is now between 6:10 and 6:15. And let's pick it back up. The shooting occurred, as we know, at 6:11. And they mark that there for us in the top right. So now the cops are backing up. Trump speaking on stage.
There's fucking cops surrounding this whole entire fucking building right now.
Don't see a shooter up there. But again,
There's something going on in this building.
hard to see from that angle because here it looks like you're only seeing the downward facing of the downward side of the slope, right? So the slope is coming down our angle. And if the shooter's on the backside, if he's back here, you're not going to be able to see that unless he's poking his head up on over it. Let's continue.
There's fucking cops surrounding this whole entire fucking building right now.
There's something going on in
That's
this
right.
building.
Instead, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a senator elected and to make sure
Oh my God.
we get back to the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America.
There's somebody in this building.
They know. Now, I don't know why the Secret Service doesn't know, apparently. Remember, the Secret Service is on the same in the same building as the local cops. Now, they're not on the same band or frequency, but we know that in the command center, local cops told us that they had a liaison in there so that when the Secret Service needed to communicate with local cops, they could do it face to face. They're right there in the same room. Easier than integrating all the equipment. So local cops say, hey, there's someone on the roof. There's a sniper. And presumably at this point, the cop maybe has already fallen off the roof, right? We don't know where that happened, but the shooter may have already turned over. We don't know the exact timeline, and scared one of the cops who's pulling himself up. That cop got injured.
It's not easy because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much frustrating. In recorded history, we're the best order. In fact, if they could ever put up a shot, I don't know if they could do that.
Nice.
You don't mind if I go off teleprompter?
Okay, a lot of panic. But a lot of people didn't clear out, right? A lot of people are still there. So that guy who made the first sweep and said, will you get out of here? You're all trespassing. That didn't take. They're all still there.
Government services comes right out of Border Patrol. And take a look at that. The lowest amount of illegal immigration ever recorded in history.
Okay, that lady looked like she was running a bit.
Make yourself small, bro. I don't know what's going on.
Make yourself small. Wow. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So that was that. Shots fired. Trump's been tackled now. And let's go through that one more time.
Make yourself small, bro. I don't know what's going on.
That's that sniper shot. So I think that interim burst was that hydraulic valve also exploding. And now we're watching what the cops are doing. Not a lot of police activity. I don't know if they ran around to the front of the building or where they went to. People still standing around after shots fired. Wild.
Get down, guys. Get down. Yeah, just get down. Get behind this tree with me. Get behind this tree.
Get behind this tree, guys. No.
I'm just safe back here.
Here.
Fucking pick that thing off.
Did they take them off?
Fuck yeah, I saw a big poop of hair go up in the air.
Oh,
They
fuck
shot him
yeah.
right in the head.
All right. Well,
Fuck yeah.
there you go.
Big poop of hair.
Holy shit,
All right.
guys.
What happened
That's
over here?
fucking
He got four shots off.
3511.
Are you fucking shitting me?
This is fucking crazy.
All right. So we'll just let that
Dude,
play
I
a little
can't-
bit more. You can see here. Cops now wandering around, talking on the radio. That other guy looks like maybe a plain clothed, or is that just a civilian? No, looks like a plain clothed officer. Civilians just standing around. Yeah, it's hard not to say those things when there is a volley of sniper fire over your head. Holy God! What else are you supposed to say? All right, so now it looks like from this angle, the police have gotten themselves maybe a ladder. They're looking to get on the roof over there. And let's see if there's any other explanation from the people there. All right. So it's mostly over. We'll let this play out. You can see.
One seriously injured. I just heard on the cops' radio.
One seriously injured. So we don't know if he's talking about the shooter or the people at the rally. So it looks like that might be some Secret Service or other people running over. Local cops, local sheriff, all climbing through the gate. Trying to get people through. All right.
Here, pal. Are you law enforcement? You are? You're not.
All right. Who's that? Secret Service? FBI?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, for sure. I got you, bro.
All right. So he says, since I thought that Agent Smith was going to take my phone, I stopped recording and I locked my screen. He only wanted a picture of my ID and ran toward the building. I recorded 6 more minutes of footage until my phone was snatched by a Pennsylvania state trooper and I was arrested and handcuffed. More to come. Thank you all. I appreciate you. So interesting scene, right? Now we got questions about that footage. Obviously there were some gaps there. We saw he was, 5'10", and then we picked back up at about 6'10". So what other footage does he have? Very curious. But yeah, who was that Agent Smith fella? You saw him come up there, right there. You're going back in the Matrix, buddy. You are not the one. All right. So certainly looks like Agent Smith. That's a funny one. So interesting thing there. We're still trying to piece together what happened. He had a lot of urgency. And it was pretty amazing that he was arrested. I guess they just probably arrested a bunch of people until they could get to the bottom of it. But that came over from Dave Stewart of Butler, Pennsylvania. So very cool. Thank you, Dave, wherever you are out there, for capturing that, for being there, and for releasing this so we can continue to learn about what happened. We're also waiting to learn about what happened. One entity that has been created to try to get to the bottom of this is the new J13 Committee, which we love that name. They're going to call it a task force, but no, it's a committee. Okay. It's a group of people sitting around, and it's a committee. And it took place on J13th, which was an attack on American democracy, to use their phrase. And they almost took out a presidential candidate. They almost interfered with our election. They almost wrecked the peaceful transition of power through the execution and the assassination of our leading candidate. So it's J13, okay? That's it. And it's not a task force, Mike. It's a committee. Stop trying to be something you're not, okay? This is not, pronoun lifestyle, okay? It's a committee. So who will serve on this J13th committee to investigate the assassination of President Trump? He says, I'm announcing 7 Republicans to do this. We have the utmost confidence in this group of steady, highly qualified, and very capable members of Congress. So we got a couple people. Who is coming on the committee? Mike Kelly, Pennsylvania. U.S. Representative Mike Kelly. That's what he looks like over here. Let's move our big fat head out of the way. Mike Kelly is this fella. Looks like this. Representative, proudly serves Pennsylvania. That's curious. I wonder if these are all going to be from swing states. He's on the House Ways and Means Committee. And he says that he resides in the hometown of Butler. Okay, so there you go, local representation. He lives there, the location of the assassination attempt. He has long-standing ties to the local law enforcement community, seems reasonable, and he is author of the resolution creating the task force, and he's going to serve as the chairman. So Mike Kelly will be serving as the chairman of this committee, and let's see if he has said anything about this. He has not. Next up, we got Representative Mark Green. Mark Green will be on the J13 committee, says he's a former U.S. Army major. He's a combat veteran, ER physician, also the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. So he on here as well. And let's see, he has a statement about this. So this is Representative Mark Green. This is what this fellow looks like. Physician, businessman, combat veteran, Tennessee, came out and said, I am honored to join my colleagues on this bipartisan task force, including Representative Higgins and Lee of the House Committee on Homeland, to more deeply investigate the countless security failures of J13. Homeland and the Secret Service's utter failure to safeguard a former president and current candidate for our nation's highest office was unacceptable from the start. And it grows more troubling with each new report and effort by the Harris-Biden administration to stonewall congressional oversight. Establishing this task force is a critical step in addressing this failure and ensuring we get the American people the answers that we deserve. We will do everything in our power to ensure nothing like this ever happens again, and I encourage Homeland as well as Cheadle to cooperate with our bipartisan oversight mission. All right. We got Dave Joyce. He's a lawyer and a prosecutor for 25 years. And he's the former chairman of Appropriations Subcommittee on the Homeland Security Committee. So he's from Ohio. And he's father, husband, and a former prosecutor. All right. We got Laurel Lee, former prosecutor as well, assistant U.S. attorney. She's from Florida, and we've played some clips from her on the show. A former judge for Florida's Judicial Circuit, former Florida Secretary of State, Florida. She also serves on the Homeland and the Judiciary Committee, and I think Judiciary is where we've seen her. She posted about this, says, thank you, Speaker Johnson, for entrusting me to be a member of this bipartisan task force. We will work to ensure that security failures that happened on J13 never happen again. So Congresswoman Laurel Lee says the American people witnessed on J13 a catastrophic security failure that nearly resulted in Trump's loss of life. The United States Secret Service has a no-fail mission. Unfortunately, they failed. One of Congress's congressional responsibilities is to conduct oversight. That's exactly what we're going to do. I'd like to thank Johnson for entrusting me, and I'm looking forward to serving. We also have Michael G. Waltz. He's former Army Special Forces and is a former White House and Pentagon advisor. He's on the Intelligence Committee, he's on the Armed Services Committee, and the Oversight Committee. Now, people are excited about Clay Higgins because he has done some very great work on the J6 stuff. Let's see who else was on here. Pat Fallon, former U.S. Air Force officer, serves on Oversight and Armed Services, and their respective subcommittee also deals with Tactical Air, Land Forces, and National Security. So Pat Fallon, he's from the great state of Texas, 4th District, there from our friends around the corner. Representative Clay Higgins also represents Louisiana. He is a former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, former law enforcement officer, maintains an active commission and post-certification, peace officer standards and training, and he serves on the Homeland Security and the Oversight Committees. And so he has also come out with a statement on this, and let's see what he posted. He says that Higgins is going to serve on the bipartisan task force charged with investigating the attempted assassination of Trump. 7 Republicans and 6 Democrats. Now, I don't know why they're playing this game. Remember, it was supposed to be 8 Democrats, 5 Republicans on the J6 committee, and Pelosi only put 2 on there. So I don't know why the Republicans don't play that same game, but we'll see. Now, the task force, or in other words, the committee, will have the House of Representatives full investigative authority, including subpoena power, baby, and will assume control and jurisdiction of all pending House committee investigations regarding the Trump assassination attempt for the remainder of the Congress. The task force is designed to assess the security failures that took place, to ensure accountability, and to report solutions to stop this from happening again. Higgins says, I'm honored to serve on the committee. on the attempted assassination of Trump. The American people demand answers. We're going to use every tool at our disposal to reveal the granular detail, of what happened here, to ensure accountability and to identify failures. I look forward to working with my bipartisan colleagues to deliver the truth on this. All right, we'll see. So that's what we got. Now, the Democrats who are going to be on here are Jason Crow, Lou Correa, Madeline Dean, Chrissy Houlihan, Glenn Ivey, and Jared Moskowitz. And we're, I think, mostly familiar with Jared Moskowitz. He is somebody who's very vocal. He's usually palling around with Dan Goldman. And so those are going to be the Democrats. I was curious why we didn't see, AOC or some of the others on there, but that's what Johnson says. He's very excited about, I think, this new committee. We'll see if they get to the bottom of anything. But there were catastrophic failures, one after another. In fact, here's what Johnson also shared. He said, here's another alarming security failure. Get this. A local SWAT officer in Pennsylvania told ABC that his team had no contact with the Secret Service at the rally until after the assassination attempt. Our House Task Force Committee is going to find answers that the American people deserve. Here is this clip from ABC.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened, and we had no communication with the Secret Service.
You had no communication with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday?
Not until after the shooting.
And by then?
It was too late.
Wild. Here's more.
Correspondent Erica Tursky. And we turn now to an ABC News exclusive. 2 weeks after the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, we are now hearing from some of the local SWAT team members who were on duty during that rally in Pennsylvania. ABC News senior investigative correspondent Erica Tursky has more.
Rhiannon, the SWAT team from Beaver County, Pennsylvania, was the one that identified Thomas Matthew Crooks for the first time as suspicious more than an hour before the gunfire.
Where was the Secret Service?
Pictures. They sent a description. They tried to track his movements, but none of those alarms ever made it to the decision makers, because this SWAT team spoke to us about failures in planning and communication.
Was this a failure of communication?
I believe so in a lot of respects. In multiple agencies working together is always taxing, no matter what the problem. I know that we could not communicate with Secret Service or Pennsylvania State Police, or really in effort the patrol directly.
The local SWAT team is accepting their own failures that day. They say the former president got shot at, somebody died at the rally who was hit by gunfire, but they say they were told what to do by the U.S. Secret Service. They did not have a choice where they would be patrolling. They found that there were no patrol officers around the area to try and intercept the suspect as they saw him moving around suspiciously. And so they say the failures are a lot to go around.
A lot. They failed massively. In fact, they failed so often, so many times in a row. Some people ask themselves, is that even possible? Like, aren't there contingencies and other checklists? Like, don't they have like a checklist? Make sure there's a person on the roof of the buildings or something like that. Everybody just made mistake after mistake. They saw him, sent messages, allowed him to get on the roof, saw him again, allowed him to get up there, brought Trump out. Mistake after mistake after mistake. It's so curious. It's almost like it's intentional, because they wanted Trump removed. And when he wasn't removed, look what happened. They took out Biden instead. So how did the gunman get ahead of everybody? Well, New York Times has a story. They outsmarted the Secret Service, apparently. How was the gunman ahead of the Secret Service? Well, text messages that came from the Times indicate that some law enforcement officers were already aware of Thomas Crooks earlier than even previously known. And guess what? He knew about them too. So they're just hanging out, having these conversations, and allowing the shooter to get on the roof. Here is what this says. Nearly 100 minutes before President Trump took the stage, a local counter sniper who was part of the broader security detail let his colleagues know that his shift was ending. Guys, I'm out. Be safe. He texted to a group of colleagues at 4:19. He exited the second floor of the warehouse that overlooked the campaign rally site, leaving two other counter snipers behind. Outside, the officer noticed a young man with long, stringy hair sitting outside a picnic table near the warehouse. So at 4:26, he texted his colleagues. One sniper's like, all right, this is covered. No one's going to get shot here. I guess I'll go home. So he texted his colleagues, who was outside the fenced area where Mr. Trump was going to come out. He said that the person would have seen him come out with his rifle and, quote, knows you guys are up there. All right. The counter sniper who sent the text confirmed to the New York Times that the individual he saw was later identified as the gunman. So the sniper is coming out of the roof, out of the location. He says, hey, someone followed our lead and snuck in and parked by our cars, just so you know. The shooter hanging out parked next to the Secret Service or to local snipers says, I'm just letting you know because you see me go out with my rifle and put it in my car. So he knows you guys are up there, and he's sitting to the direct right on a picnic table about 50 yards from the exit. Someone who's very security conscious says, oh, hey, someone out there knows we're here, knows you're up there, saw me with the gun. He's there, be forewarned. Two counter snipers say, thumbs up, got that. Roger that one. Here you are. So now they know. Now, doesn't look like he's dangerous at the time, but by 5:10, the young man was no longer on the picnic table. He was right below the counter snipers who were upstairs in a warehouse owned by AGR International. One of the counter snipers took pictures of him, says, who's this dude? That's according to local law enforcement to an after-action report, which along with the text from Beaver County Emergency Services was also provided to the Times by the office of Senator Chuck Grassley. Shout out, Republican from Iowa. Now, the text messages were independently verified by the Times. At 5:38, the photos were shared in a group chat. Another text went out among the officers saying, we should probably inform the Secret Service. The kid is learning around the building we are in. AGR, I believe it is. I did see him with a rangefinder looking towards the stage, FYI. If you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out, I lost sight of him. Because, right, the sniper is probably looking out. So if this guy's just smoking around the near interior of the building, he's looking out. He can't see directly beneath him. So the other snipers, the Secret Service snipers, should be able to see that. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I see him right over there. So apparently they didn't want to find him. So he takes a picture. Hey, here's this dude poking around, kid learning around the building, AGR, I believe. So someone sends back, call it into command and have a uniform check it out. That's at 5:38. Another counter sniper. Now by 6:11, that kid would be dead on the roof of a warehouse. Yeah. Connected to one of the counter snipers who were stationed in it after having been shot by the Secret Service for trying to kill Trump. So here's the position of the local snipers, right? So they were actually in that second story building right there. The gunman was photographed right there. Wild. This is so wild. They're in here looking out this direction. He comes across this corner, looks down. He tells the other Secret Service over here, hey, tell them to look out for this guy. Other Secret Service are located here and here. This guy has a line of sight problem because of this tree. So the gunman fires right here. So he's shooting through this tree. That's a difficult sight. So there's some suggestion that maybe that sniper took him out when he was over here. But when the gunman, the sniper, not the counter sniper, but the gunman, the assassin, he's right here. Where does he go? Does he come back this way? Does he climb up on the building on this backside? Now he's on the roof. Do they hear him on the roof? Does he waltz around this way, come around on this backside? We saw that there were a bunch of people, cops over here, like looking up into the trees when the shooting started. That first segment, that first video we played here, they were all scrambling around this area. So the gunman opens fire. Other snipers take him out. These guys presumably can't see him, which is a little hard to believe. Maybe these are at the same plane, but if memory serves, I think this building is actually of a lower elevation than this building. So does this window give you a line of sight to this location? Did the local snipers, were they just not paying attention, looking and covering this roof? Or were they not expected to cover this roof because they couldn't see it because it was too tall? But we know 5:14, they photographed this guy, and an hour later, he's on the roof shooting. And there's snipers in the building. Gunman was first spotted at 4:26. Trump is speaking on the stage. That other dude was clearing people out around that same time, warning everybody, call it in, and nothing happened. It's just incredible. So taken together, the text messages provide the most detailed picture yet of the hours before the assassination attempt. They reveal that the gunman, Crooks, aroused police suspicion more than 90 minutes before the shooting, rather than about 60 minutes, as was already discussed in congressional hearings. 90 minutes. Could watch a full movie. I mean, they should have called us. We could have probably done a whole live stream, and somebody over where you're at in Pennsylvania could have just come right over there. We could have done a full show in the time that it took them not to find a sniper. Well, the messages also add to the evidence that the would-be assassin was often one step ahead of the security forces, and in particular, the Secret Service. How is that possible? Is it possible that a 20-year-old could just outsmart all of these mega experts in security? Or is there something else going on here? Mr. Crooks scoped out the rally site a day before Secret Service. He used a drone to survey the site, while the Secret Service did not seek permission to even use one. He researched how far away Oswald was from Kennedy, 265 feet, climbed onto the roof that was 400 feet. Secret Service left the roof unmanned. And while counter snipers were assigned to surveil the rally, Mr. Crooks was also in a position to watch them. Even after the episode ended, the police seemed confused. What the hell happened here? So on TV, they're saying Trump was shot at and he got hit, but I don't believe that, one local police officer said to another 17 minutes after the shooting in a conversation on a captured body camera. He's like, how the hell did that happen? Now, as the officers in the video walked toward the warehouse on which Crooks' lifeless body laid, one could be heard saying, I'm trying to figure out how this guy got here. Dropped in from the heavens by Liz Cheney. She's like, just here you go. Here, Liz Cheney's walking around opening doors. Here's a ladder for you. Investigators are trying to figure out his motivations. I know, maybe he was a Trump supporter, wanted to make America great again. Idiots. And his actions in the days before the rally, in part from what they have found on his personal devices. But the text and the footage, combined with the interviews by the Times and the public testimony, have filled in some of the answers. Crooks already had the AR-15. He got it in October from his father, got it legally. He began receiving packages at his home for fertilizer, pellets, and radio devices. He would later use some of this material to build rudimentary bombs, 2 of which were found in his vehicle and another in his home. Crooks also had started searching online for famous people like Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Biden, Trump. He also looked up major depressive disorder. On July 3rd, Trump's campaign announced the rally. 10 days later, Crooks started searching to past assassinations. On July 6th, Crook typed in an ominous phrase. He did a Google search for how far away was Oswald from Kennedy, said Christopher Wray during a committee hearing. Now, the next day, Mr. Crooks drove to the farm show grounds about an hour from his home, spent 20 minutes there, and then registered. Secret Service agents would not hold their first walkthrough until the following day, joined by law enforcement officials from several local and state agencies. It was then that the Secret Service decided to exclude the entire warehouse owned by AGR. Amazing, July 8th. Secret Service decided that. Who? That's a volitional act, right? Oh, no. And it's not organizing. It's not texting Crooks and saying, can you go take out the president? But it's opening a window. That's, Liz Cheney behavior, including building number 6, which Mr. Crooks would later use. Yeah, very curious from its inner security perimeter. Nah, it's good. Those buildings. You can only get like 50 snipers on there. We only secure buildings if you can get 100. So this meant that on the day of the rally, Crooks was able to approach the building, didn't even have to go through security. And every sniper or anyone who's even, shot a rifle on YouTube is like, what? Everybody. Okay. All the snipers, Navy SEALs, Delta Force. It's amazing. There is still confusing about which agency was supposed to oversee the roof. No one knows. Cheadle, then director of the Secret Service, who resigned in disgrace and did that to put a nice little bow tie on this, said that she did not know whose job that was. I don't know whose job that was. She resigned the next day. Yeah, well, it's your job, Kim. After their walkthrough, the Secret Service had asked local agencies to provide more help. Can you cover this? We'd rather talk about Jill Biden. Text messages show that Beaver County struggled to find enough volunteers for the 12-hour shift. A leader says that one of the available snipers could arrive at 8 a.m., but they got to leave by 4. Someone says, okay, that works, whatever. On Thursday, July 11th, 2 days before, the Secret Service returned to the site with a final walkthrough. The next day, Crooks made his own final prep. He went to a shooting range around 2:30, practiced with his rifle. On Saturday morning on J13th, the timelines of the security personnel and the would-be assassin converged. Officers from local law enforcement agencies were scheduled for a briefing 9 a.m. at the Brady Pulp Lodge in Butler. The after-action reports indicate Secret Service was not in attendance. It's only the day of the rally. They had other things to worry about. At the same time, Mr. Crooks was at the Home Depot in Bethel Park purchasing a ladder. A bloody receipt found in the shooter's pocket after he was killed showed he bought it around 9:30 a.m. Then Crooks drove to the rally site, reaching the showgrounds by around 10 a.m. and staying about 70 minutes, even as the local counter snipers were arriving. When Mr. Crooks left, he drove back to his hometown, bought 50 rounds of ammo, returned to Butler about 3:35. 15 minutes later, he flew his drone over the site for 11 minutes, including a path about 200 yards from Trump's podium. He finished his drone, sat at the picnic table where the counter sniper spotted him. He's like, whatever, what are you going to do? Nothing. Unlike the other visitors, he was not trying to enter the rally site. And that attracted the attention of local counter snipers. One of them took photos of him. This dude is weird. Colonel Chris Paris, the Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner who testified on Tuesday, testified that officers were busy that day. There were more than 100 heat-related emergencies. There were also other suspicious people there. It's not unusual. We're looking around. But then Crooks did something that alarmed the police. They saw him. They saw him using a rangefinder. Why on earth would you need a rangefinder? Man, I was curious, probably. A Beaver County counter sniper shared the photos at 5:38. Those were relayed to the Secret Service Center. They said, well, does he have a gun? Okay, then who cares? One of the 2 remaining counter snipers ran out of the building, attempting to keep eyes on Crooks until other law enforcement arrived. So they got it. But Crooks ran off. He took a backpack with him, which at that point you go, okay, red alert. That guy is now evading counter forces. Okay, that's it. So now it's like code red alert. We have an unknown suspect who's fleeing. Everybody should freak. Trump should never come on the stage at that moment. Once a sniper goes to find him and he's running, that's a fugitive, right? Or suspect on the run. Mr. Goldinger said, but they're like, well, until bring Trump out. When the officer was unable to find Crooks, he returned to his post. Got away from me. Oh, well. I'll catch the next one. 4 Butler Township officers who had been directing traffic then joined the manhunt, right? So now they're all on their forces. And it's probably what we saw, all of them running around. At 6 p.m., one officer in the group texts guessed that Mr. Crooks was moving toward the back of the complex of the AGR buildings away from the event. Instead, Crooks, so they say he's going that way. Instead, that's not what happened. Crooks clambered onto a low-slung building in the complex on the closest to the stage. Trump took the podium at 6:03. Shots fired at 6:11. 6 minutes later, at 6:09, rally attendees began pointing to someone on the roof. What's that over there? Either through luck or preparation, Mr. Crooks had found a place on the roof that let him see Mr. Trump, but also seemed to keep him somewhat hidden from the Secret Service counter snipers. Either by the tree that was blocking them, or maybe even the local counter snipers were in the window and they couldn't get line of sight on him. Now, though Mr. Crooks did not bring his newly purchased ladder, he managed to climb onto the roof and walk across a complex of the interconnected roofs. The Butler Township officers had no ladders themselves, so one officer boosted himself up, grabbed the roof, pulled himself up to find Mr. Crooks pointing a gun at him. With no hands left to pull his own gun, the officer dropped. Now, we still don't know exactly what time that was. So at that moment, okay, they're all should be screaming. Now, I think they should be screaming from the rooftops, literally. There's someone who's fleeing from us. He's got a rangefinder. They know he's got a rangefinder. They go to try to approach him. He flees. Code red. Trump should have never come onto the stage. Then when the other cop gets basically, assaulted with a firearm, when does he drop off? How much time elapses? Is that 6:10? Is that 6:09? Is that 6:03? Is that 6:10, 50 seconds? So he points the gun. Oh, crap. And then Crooks is freaking out and turns back around and then fires quickly. Maybe that's why he missed, because he was hurt. Oh, cops are on to me. They're coming up here, and, shoots quickly. We would love to know what time that was. Now it's 6:11, because the longer time that elapsed, okay, if this officer falls off the roof, his buddy's like, dude, what the hell happened? What's up there? He's like, there's a shooter on the roof. So then call it in. He calls it in. There's a shooter on the roof. That goes immediately to the command center. The local cops have their liaison in there with the Secret Service, liaisoning over each other, theoretically, but apparently not. So then the Secret Service should say, okay, that shooter just assaulted local law enforcement, take him out. Okay, that's an active threat, take him out. So how much time was that elapsed there? And because that other cop would have had the right to shoot him at that moment. Okay, you draw a gun on a cop, okay, use of force, let's go. So why wouldn't Secret Service then be able to carry that over if he was now setting up to shoot Trump? So how much time? Don't know. Now, in the end, Trump was spared, not by the vast law enforcement contingent protecting him, but by chance. He turned his head in a miracle, and the first bullet whizzed by close enough to graze his freaking ear. Now, the former president dived to the ground. Crooks then sent off another round. The second Secret Service sniper team fired back and killed Crooks. The body camera footage shows officers climbing a ladder to find Crooks lying dead on the roof. Slight man, black sneakers, t-shirt, cargo shorts, backpack and rifle lay nearby, long trail of blood running down the roof's gutter. Someone says, looks like what? At least 8? One of them says, counting shell casings around him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, at least 8, said someone. And so a lot of interesting details there from this report from the New York Times, but it just shows volitional act after volitional act. Don't secure the building. Secret Service doesn't show up to security briefings. Then we have clear communication to the Secret Service, and apparently they don't even care much about it. This dude's flying drones all over the place. They didn't even care about drones. So it's a catastrophic failure, and we're grateful that the local cops are out defending themselves, trying to set this record straight so the Secret Service can't continue to point blame at them directly. And we're going to continue to learn more. We also know now that Trump is going to sit down for an interview about this assassination. So when you're the victim of a crime, the FBI normally wants to talk to you. Local law enforcement does too. So we want to get his perspective on what he observed. Politico's reporting this, says Trump has now agreed to be interviewed by the FBI about the assassination attempt that was lodged against him earlier this month. An FBI official told reporters on Monday, that's today. Trump's reported agreement to sit down with the investigators comes after he sharply criticized Christopher Wray, even called for him to resign. Trump was particularly aggrieved by Wray's conspiracy theory made up to fan the flames of lefty weirdos, suggestion during congressional testimony last week that it was unclear whether he was actually pierced by a bullet. Then they came out with a statement and said, yeah, it's a bullet or it's a fragmented portion of a bullet. So Trump got hit by a bullet. Okay, relax, lefty. Now, as part of our normal investigative process, they said, we regularly interview victims of crimes to offer our support. Yeah, right. Trump doesn't need the FBI support. Okay, we'll pass on your support. Christopher Wray, come cry on my shoulder. The special agent in charge of the FBI's office said during a phone call of Pittsburgh, his name's Kevin. He says, to that end, we have contacted former President Trump, and he has agreed to participate in a victim interview. Good, because he was the victim of a J13 attack on American democracy that seemingly was enabled by the Biden Secret Service, which is now the Harris Secret Service. Says Rojek did not offer any details about when the Bureau reached out to Trump, when he agreed, or when the interview will take place, but he said it will be consistent with any other victim interview that we do. Now, we want to get a full perspective on what he observed. So just like any other witness, as well as to get his perspective. Trump didn't respond to comment. In a message posted previously on Truth, he said, no one ever even called, okay, even out of curiosity from the FBI, Trump wrote in the aftermath. They don't care. During the briefing on Monday, FBI officials also released some other details. They said the gunman used pseudonyms to make a flurry of online purchases and other chemicals. So he might have a bunch of other online activity, but he was just using them under pseudonyms. Okay, many of us were wondering, how does a 20-year-old dude have no online social media presence virtually at all? We know that there may have been some posts in Gab, on Gab, as we covered last week. But it probably exists, right? He was talking to somebody. We know he had those encrypted apps and things, but he was just using them under pseudonyms. And of course, just like many other things they never want us to see, we'll probably never see what those are. Just like we're still waiting for that trans manifesto. Now, two of which, there were 3 explosive devices, 2 were in the cars. He made more than 25 different firearms-related purchases, 6 chemical precursors, and I'm sure he's just doing this all alone, solo. The FBI also said Crooks purchased a ladder, didn't actually use that, just climbed up probably on an air conditioner, visited the rally site, and we know a lot of the rest of the story. So interesting stuff. The committee will now be formed and get underway. We've got 7 Republicans who are going to be on it, and we'll see how they do. Now, we are going to, of course, continue to cover the assassination stuff, and we'll see what your thoughts are on that. But before we jump into your comments, let's talk about what's also happening at the Supreme Court, because we had some interesting things afoot today. The Biden people, I think they kind of know they're at the end of the line. So they're like, let's just get everything we can possibly get while the feeding is good. And this is what we've got. There is a feeding frenzy as Biden is being put out to pasture. Everybody's trying to get every last inch of political leverage and mileage out of this guy. It's like an old rental car. Like you're just going to drive it into the ground, baby. So before Biden goes, why not utilize him to try to take a nice tire iron to the knees of the Supreme Court, the last entity that he hasn't absolutely wrecked before he's decided to cowardly ride off into the sunset and hand the keys over to Kamala, who's just as responsible. So he came out with this post. He certainly didn't write it. We don't even know where he is or who's in charge. Evidently, it's Kamala. But here's what Biden or someone on his team wrote. They said, you know, the nation was founded on a simple yet profound principle. No one is above the law, which is a pretty stupid thing to say. Is that what the nation was founded upon? Is that like in the Declaration of Independence or something? Not the president of the United States, not a justice on the United States Supreme Court, but Joe Biden is. So today I'm calling for 3 bold reforms to restore trust and accountability to the court and our democracy, which means to rig it in favor of Democrats. 1, no more immunity from crimes a former president committed while in office, which is a constitutional concept, Joe. Term limits for the Supreme Court justices, also a constitutional requirement, and a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. Now, read more about how these actions would strengthen the guardrails of our democracy in this Washington Post article, which of course we'll do, just to show you how ridiculous it is. Now, it's dead on arrival, all right? Everybody is saying it's not going to happen. We know that Republicans will not allow it to happen. Mike Johnson says it's dead on arrival at the House, says Biden's proposal to radically overhaul SCOTUS would tilt the balance of power, which is exactly what they want, and erode not only the rule of law, but the American people's faith in our system of justice. Says this proposal is the logical conclusion to the Harris-Biden administration and the congressional Democrats' ongoing effort to delegitimize the Supreme Court. Their calls to expand and pack the court will soon resume, and we know that. Now, it is telling that Democrats want to change the system that has guided our nation since its founding simply because they disagree with some of the court's recent decisions. This dangerous gambit of the Biden-Harris administration is dead on arrival in the White House. And that's great news, obviously. And a lot of this, I think, would require a constitutional amendment, although they're going to argue that it does not. Here is what Joe Biden apparently wrote. He says, here's my plan to reform the Supreme Court and to ensure no president is above the law, except Joe Biden. He says, no nation was founded, this nation, on a simple but yet profound principle. No one is above the law. And it's curious because we have a whole constitution and it's not really, we have other things like due process and free speech in there. And a lot of different, very powerful concepts, but I don't know really, like, what is his source for that? We need a citation on that. But the Supreme Court's 6-3 decision, which was based on the Constitution, which was the founding document, they say the president has broad immunity from prosecution, which just like all other elected officials have, which means there are virtually no limits on what a president can do, which again is fake and false. Didn't even read the opinion. The opinion says if it is clearly within the bounds of the president's duties, then it's constitutionally allowed. So we want that to be the case. If it is within the outer perimeter of his responsibilities, then it is presumptively immune. But if it's outside of both of those things, then it is not immune. And there's a whole slew of conduct that falls in that category. More on Joe. The only limits will be those that are self-imposed by the person occupying the Oval Office. Not true at all. Now, if a future president incites a violent mob to storm the Capitol and stop the peaceful transfer of power, which is not what happened at all, there may be no legal consequences. It's not what happened at all. That's only the beginning. It says, on top of dangerous and extreme decisions that overturn settled precedent like Roe versus Wade, this court also has an ethics problem. And so I served as a senator for 36 long, painful years. I've seen a lot of different things. And so this is why I'm calling for the following. I'm calling for a constitutional amendment. Not going to happen. Not even close. This country's not agreeing even remotely close to anything like this, called the No One is Above the Law Amendment. It would make clear there's no immunity for crimes a former president committed while in office. That's already the case, right? But it's got to actually be a crime. It can't be protected conduct. So it's just it makes no sense. Okay, this is red meat for moronic Democrats. They don't even know what it means. I honestly believe that through and through. I share our founders' belief that the president's power is limited, not absolute. Nobody's disagreeing with that. We are a nation of laws, not of kings or dictators. Well, then why do you keep ignoring the Supreme Court, who've said you can't do certain things with the student loans? You don't care. Second, we've had term limits for president for 75 years. We should have the same for justices. Going to need an amendment. And we have one for presidents. The U.S. is the only major constitutional democracy that gives lifetime seats to its high court. Term limits would help ensure that the court's membership changes with some regularity. That would make timing for court nominations more predictable and less arbitrary. It would reduce the chance that any single presidency radically alters. There might be some good argument for term limits. I mean, the court, to be fair, has turned into this thing where we just wait for people to die. There's something, maybe that's how we want it, but 18 years he wants an active service on the Supreme Court seems a little bit low. I think that, the question would be, what is this only for upcoming? I have a question about how this would apply. Do you want it for your appointees? Are you going to start it with your appointee? That would be the real way to do it. Okay, I'll start it with mine. I believe in it. I'll start it with my appointee. But you didn't do it with your appointees. You gave your appointees lifetime tenure, and then that was the game. So for what? Do you want to just apply this to the conservative justices or what? But, it's a good argument. And I think also, this might be good for the Senate too, and for the House of Representatives. Why do we have these people in there for 36 years, Joe? We're sick of people like you. If anybody needed a term limit, it's you. You've been in for 2 Supreme Court terms. You just wrote this, 36 years. Look, I've been around for 36 years, which is 2 lifetime tenures. So why don't they get 36 years? Buddy, you can be in the Senate for 36 years, but they can't be in the court for 36? Give me a break. All right, so third, I'm calling for a binding code of conduct. Now, this is common sense, which means it's not. The court's current voluntary ethics code is weak. Justices should be required to disclose gifts. Every other federal judge is bound by that. Oh, they're not Supreme Court judges. All 3 of these reforms are supported by a majority of Americans, and I want to thank the bipartisan committee for doing this. We can and must prevent the abuse of presidential power and strengthen this in America. No, it's above the law. In America, the people rule. No, we don't. Give me a break. What people? You just got thrown out of your butts by Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and Disney princesses. Not a single Democrat voted for Kamala Harris. She's in charge of the Democratic Party right now. No one even likes her. So it's a weird thing. I think that they're trying to make this a political issue, aggressively, obviously. But that's really the only meaning behind this. They're not going to get any of this passed. It's all going to be dead on arrival. And we have other reactions. So this is Senator Elizabeth Warren, aka Pocahontas, who, as we know, got obliterated at the convention where Trump was speaking about the Bitcoiners. A lot of fun. And she got raked over the coals over there. Here she is trying to talk about, I believe this is some Kamala talk and ethics reforms in SCOTUS. So here's
One of
Elizabeth.
the issues President Biden said he will focus on in the remainder of his term is reform of the U.S. Supreme Court. Among the changes he's reportedly considering are term limits and an enforceable ethics code for justices. Now, you've been working on this issue in the Senate. What realistically do you think you could get through Congress? Not what should be, but what do you think you could actually accomplish?
Yeah, well, I think we've got all the Democrats who are ready for meaningful ethics reform to bind the Supreme Court. And we're working on changes to the Supreme Court. It can be term limits. It could be adding the number of justices, things we can do without having to have a constitutional amendment. I think what President Biden is doing is think about this moment. Here is a man who's been a transformative president.
What?
He's got an enormous amount done. And yet
He's wrecked a lot, if that's what you mean.
he has stepped away and he has passed the torch to Kamala Harris. Why has he done that? He's done it as an act of patriotism for our nation. And he is saying
Total lies. He was thrown out. You guys had to force him, kicking and screaming. He was throwing a temper tantrum. Kamala came in off the rooftop and hit him in the back of the head with a hammer. So it wasn't anything where it's like, oh, patriotic American. Okay, he got dragged out of there.
we not only have to have a president who is here for the nation and who will heal us and bring us together, we also have to change our Supreme Court, because right now we have a Supreme Court that has basically jumped the guardrails and is out there giving power to the president, saying that the president can commit any act.
That's not what they said. The president has had functional immunity for 234 years, weird lady. And now they're just codifying it because your side has broken precedent.
That the president wants, saying that Congress cannot authorize agencies to act. So we've got a Supreme Court that is actively undermining our democracy. And I think what Joe Biden will do over the next 6 months is he's going to keep drawing that to the attention of the American people and reminding them when they vote in November, the Supreme Court is on the ballot. And that is a good reason to vote for Kamala Harris and to vote for Democrats in
All right,
both
so that's
the
all
Senate
it is,
and
right?
the
Just
House.
something for them to talk about. The Supreme Court's corrupt and they took away your abortion, even though they didn't. They just sent it back down to the states because the Roe versus Wade decision was reprehensible because it was like a second Congress was operating in the judiciary, and that's not what the judiciary is for. So we've got more reaction on this from some Republican representatives. They're also commenting on what happened in Venezuela. We saw that there's a little coup happening there. A lot of coups happening this month, but we have reaction from some representatives saying that we are not going to be turning the Supreme Court into a little communist dictatorship. Sorry there.
We just read in a very important newspaper in the United States that President Biden wrote an article saying that he wants to reform the Supreme Court of the United States. That is outrageous, and that goes against the system, the American exceptionality that we all enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen this in history happen time and time again. When somebody, for political reasons, tries to change the institutions. The Supreme Court, by the way, has been instrumental in maintaining the rule of law and democracy in this country. It's not the first time that the left talks about changing, reforming the Supreme Court, but it is highly dangerous, unacceptable, and that is a real threat to democracy and to all of the freedoms that we enjoy in the United States. We had a great
Oh my
example
gosh.
of the threats.
I think that's Carlos Jimenez. That's the guy who was on the roof. 70-year-old congressman on the roof saying it's not even that slopey. Unlike Cheadle's sloped brain. He can stand on regular ground too and probably even walk up those stairs. Unbelievable.
To democracy yesterday when the Maduro regime invalidated an election and stayed or tried to stay in power. What's the first thing that Hugo Chavez did when he became president 24 years ago? He actually reformed the Supreme Court of Venezuela, so he made things legal for himself. So what are they doing today? They're using that same court system to put in jail the main opposition leader Maria Corina, and claimed that she's been conspiring with Northern Macedonia. Touching the judicial system is one way to maintain power. And so this is really, really dangerous for the national security, for our security, and the security of democracy here in the United States.
And when the Democrats are saying that President Trump represents a threat to the American democracy, I don't think so, but this is a perfect example. The empirical evidence is against the Democrats because the President of the United States is saying that he wants to change the democracy. Not President Trump, but President Biden. So be very careful because touching the Supreme Court is touching the core of the American system.
Which is exactly what they want, okay? They've already commandeered the FBI. They have total control over the DOJ. CIA is working literally with people like Anthony Blinken and the Biden administration to install him by writing propaganda letters that they spread around throughout the media. They've got control of the social media companies, except X and Rumble and some others. And it's a full-blown onslaught until they get everybody. Supreme Court is currently outside of their control, which is why they've tried to say Clarence Thomas is unethical and blah, blah, blah. They make up stuff about Kavanaugh and his yearbook and all the things. They want to bring everybody to heel, and the Republicans will not allow it to happen. Here is what the Senate sounded like. This is a Democrat. We'll listen to him before we hear from McConnell. This is what Durbin had to say about all this.
It is time for change. President Biden is saying that today. I'll study his detailed suggestion, but I certainly agree with him that the 9 people serving on the U.S. Supreme Court should not be treated differently than any other federal judges when it comes to transparency and accountability for their actions. If the court is going to have any credibility when it comes to its integrity, it must reflect that in its actions. Receiving and failing to report gifts of that magnitude is an embarrassment to the whole nation. The Republicans should get on board a bipartisan effort. We passed an ethics bill in the Senate Judiciary Committee. It was authored by Senator Whitehouse of Rhode Island. It's pending on the calendar. It should be called this year. Sooner the better. An ethics code on the Supreme Court.
Okay, so speaking of term limits, we have Senator Dick Durbin and also Senator Mitch McConnell, who was also talking about this today, saying this is ridiculous here from Joe Biden. They decided to eliminate the Supreme Court as we know it. Sometimes even Mitch McConnell can hit one.
They decided the time has come to eliminate the Supreme Court as we know it. In his op-ed, the president says he wants term limits his own justices. Never mind what the Constitution says. Never mind the advice and consent role of the Senate. President Biden and his leftist allies don't like the current composition of the court, so they want to shred the Constitution to change it. He wants what he calls an ethics code, but that already exists. What the president is actually proposing is a stealth process for people other than the justices to decide cases. Again, Constitution be damned.
Whoa. Okay, so McConnell, he's pretty angry, as you can see. Constitution be damned. Whoa, Mitch. Calm down over there, all right? We don't want anything else to happen to you over there. No more aneurysms. All right, so that is what's happening with the Biden administration. They hate anybody who does not automatically fall and come to heel under their administration. So they're going to try to wreck the Supreme Court, just like everything else they've wrecked. Nobody trusts the DOJ anymore. FBI is a joke. CIA is a joke. So why not make the Supreme Court also a joke? That's their efforts. But fortunately, it's going to be very difficult for them to do that because our founders, in their endless wisdom, made that process very hard so that spineless, waffling politicians like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can't continue to do this. We're going to be here continuing to cover this and more, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. Wherever it is you're watching this, we'd love to see you back here. We go live 5 days a week here, same time, and we'd love to see you back. Now, my friends, I do know that the internet is pretty terrible. I don't know if it's been working well today or not. I've seen some complaints. So we're going to do a short show today. We're traveling back into the valley tomorrow. And so tomorrow we'll be back in the old digs, the regular digs, full studio and all that stuff. So we'll come back, of course, tomorrow. But before we wrap it up today, I want to hear from you. We cover two good grounds, two good segments, more assassination stuff, very interesting video. We know more about the J13 committee that's being formed. And we also have the Supreme Court under attack from Joe Biden, like the rest of America. So let's see what you say about this, my friends. The video's working now as soon as the show ended. Yeah, it looks like it's much better here on my end. It's great. Thanks. They're like, oh, good, he's done. Turn the internet back on. Perfect. So let's see what you say about this, my friends. Of course, we are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and hang out with our membos over there in a little bit. It's working now. It's working. All right. It's fun. Okay. So if it wasn't working, and I know some people were a little agitated and said, I'm out of here, we'll re-upload. Well, we should be able to re-upload it in higher quality later. So if you're coming back for a replay, we'll see you there. All right, so let's see who is joining us in this beautiful house, my friends. Thank you so much for your love and support here. Tony Hay Munkets. What's up, Tony Hay? Tony Hay is bringing in a bunch of membos, man. We got 10 new membos coming in from Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. And 10 new membos. You know who you are. Bunch of names came through on that screen. Tony, thanks for bringing them in. And hey, if you're a membo, we did a stream this morning. I think it was also a little bit choppy, but we did do a stream this morning. And so be sure to check that out if you'd like to do that. Hey, what's up, Lisa? Speaking about Tony Hay, says Tony Hay Munkets, the gift that keeps on gifting. Tony's very generous. Yeah, I think some people have been able to string together. Like, I'm curious what the longest membership that has been strung together is, just purely off gifted membos. Like, have you been able to get to a year just off pure gifts? That's pretty cool. What's up, Voice of the People? 10 membos from Voice of the People. Thank you, Voice. Happy Monday to you, my friend. Hopefully you're having a great start to your week. Thanks for being here and bringing in 10 amazing new membos. We got Mark Nielsen. What's up, Mark? Says the last membo only was censored. It was muted in the middle. Oh, that's because of the audio. Yeah, we played a Trump video. So the members only stream, we played some copyrighted music. So I had to mute that music. So YouTube flagged the video and said, you're using someone else's music. I said, I know. Can you just relax for 2 seconds? We used like 2 seconds of it. It was in a campaign video. They said, would you please delete it? Okay, fine. So that's what that was. But yeah, you're probably right. And we're probably also being censored somewhere else. Jason B, what's up? Says, I might have missed it, but why is the footage in the rally so choppy? It's probably because of my crap internet connection. I don't know. It played normally on my end. If it came through like at 1 FPS, that's not how it is. So I retweeted it. So if you want to go check it out, just go check my timeline. The full actual video is there, 7 minutes. It's a good one. So sorry for that. Yeah, no, it actually played like a normal video. It's not like that, but hopefully it plays better when we re-upload the segments. Yeah. The thing we could have done today is I could have just not done it live. I was also contemplating just record the show and then upload it, but it would have been much delayed. We would have had no live chat and it would have just been off like a premiere. So I just like, all right, just try it. If it's crap, it's crap, but at least we get to hang out for a little bit. So that's why we made the decision. But I know it is frustrating also to have a choppy. Yeah, I don't know why it's so we're getting 5 megabytes up. It's not much here. I don't know why. But it's like 5 megabytes up. Well, actually, I think I do know why. I mean, here, let me show you what we're looking at right here. So this is the, we're like tucked right in the mountains. So like if you're over here, that's Sedona, baby. So that's Sedona right out there. And if you can see it, that's Chimney Rock. Right up there is Chimney Rock. We climbed to the top of that. So if you look out here, beautiful mountains up there, that's Sedona. It's just beautiful. So we've been hanging here, but there's like no internet. We're tucked back in the mountains. So it's been very beautiful. But so my apologies on that. Hey, what's up? Captain Flat-tastic is in the house. Says SS Chief Kim Cheadle is Kim Cheney. She's. I knew it. I knew it. Pulled it off. Ah. It's Liz Cheney. She's responsible for the whole assassination attempt. I knew it. And she would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for Trump's quick head movement. Dodging bullets. I knew it. It's always Kim Chaney. Hey, what's up? Lethal says, please return to your normal streaming studio. I will tomorrow. I'll be back there tomorrow. No doubt. No doubt. I will. I was even thinking, I'm like, okay, I should get a Starlink for out here. But even Starlink, I don't know if I would be able to get over those mountains. They're really tall over there. So it's beautiful here. Thanks for tolerating our poor internet connection while we're on the road. What's up, Linda? Thank you, Linda. Thanks for that one. One new membo coming in, courtesy of Linda Hunter. We love you, Linda. Michael Allen Hughes. What's up, Michael Allen Hughes? Bringing in this one, says Article 3, Section 1 says no to this nonsense. Yeah, the courts are already pretty well governed by the Constitution. It's in there. Just because the Democrats don't like it doesn't mean they can just white out the Constitution as much as they do. Thank you for that, Michael Allen. And hey, thanks for being a membo for 17 months. Woo! It's a long time. It's almost 2 full babies. Yeah. Thank you for that, Michael. We got this one from Pink Husky. Says the U.S. is not the only country with no term limit for Supreme Court justices. The same is true in Canada. Just fact checking Biden live. That's great. I didn't know that. Oh, really? Well, our friends in Canada do. Huh. And the idea, there's a good rationale for that, right? You don't want to make it a political appointment, and you don't want to make it so people are, biased, essentially. You want really good people on there for a long time. You want to make sure you make a good decision. It's a lifetime appointment. It's serious business, and there's good reason for it. And it might be worth revisiting the Federalist Papers for that. I also do think that term limits, I do get tired of our people in there forever and ever and ever. I think that they get, not necessarily judges. I don't know if the same thing happens with judges, because it's not a political body, right? They're not out there campaigning like politicians and having to engage in that way. But yeah, it's curious. I mean, we saw it with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? Like, she was like dead. They were weekend at burning her for a long time. Like, why isn't she showing up to oral arguments and all this stuff? She was like, dead. So do we want that? Not really. Not really. Hey, what's up? Matt O says, with the mass stabbing today in the UK, how long till the Dems try to ban knives? With the mass stabbing today in the UK, how long till the Dems try to ban knives? I don't know. I think they try to ban everything, like even soda pop and stuff like that. So who knows? Beach Life, what's up? Membo for 4 months. Thank you, Beach Life, for hanging out for 4 full months, almost halfway to a baby. We got this one from Curtis Bartle. Says Rob is ready to take off with that helicopter hat, like Inspector Gadget. Go Gadget helicopter. All the way out of here. Thank you for that one, Curtis Bartle. 25 months as a membo. Amazing. Membo for 25 months. Thanks for that, Curtis Bartle. That's almost 3 babies. My multiplication tables are just terrible. Hey, what's going on? Box Lane Production says, no jokes today, Rob. I have too much respect for Mitch McConnell to make jokes about him or any other Ninja Turtles. Mitch the Turtle. And yeah, it's very respectful of you, Box Lane. We don't like to make fun of the Ninja Turtles here because they're awesome, especially Raphael, who's the best. Hey, what's up, Paulette Boyle? New YouTube membo in the house. Great to have you aboard. Thank you, Paulette, for joining us. And thank you, YouTube friends and new membos. And Tony Hay. And welcome aboard all of our new membos. Great to see you in the house. Thank you, Paulette. Welcome aboard. We also want to say what's up to our locals friends. Of course, we are going over to locals to hang out and debrief as soon as we are done here. And we had some comments come in. And so what's going on to our locals friends? This is what it looks like if you go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Jester Bob said, in this video, the 3 shots followed by 5 additional shots around the same time. Other videos, I've heard it could be seen as 2 different weapons or locations. I've heard that too. Yeah, I've heard that too. I know there's 2 shooter theses, 1 shooter theses. I think I can understand a single shooter thesis. And the big thing that I still don't understand, if it is 2 shooters, just it's my own brain, is why is Trump alive? If there were 2 shooters who were timing their shots, why is Trump alive? My response to that own argument is that they were rushed, that the first shot was accelerated. So the first shooter, if there is evidence of a second shooter, and I can also believe that it's a single shooter with just different sounds. Shot, 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 shot. You know, it sounds differently. It sounds different. So, and he could have been pinned to the mat of the roof, and then he could have stood up a little bit. And so the sound could have changed. But if it was two shooters or even three shooters, I've seen three shooters. Like there were three, and I know that there were. By the way, there was one report that we read that there were 3 different guns that were fired, and that was from CNN, and I have that clipped in case that story changes. But yeah, there was other analysis that there were 3 different guns fired. So, you know, it's hard to say on that one. But the thing that I keep coming back to on the double shooter theory is, why is Trump alive? If there were 2 people with sniper rifles shooting at him, why is he alive? Like, missing 1 is a miracle. Missing 2? Like, come on. I just have a hard time believing that. It just seems like they would have hit him. That's why you have 2 shooters. So it's like if the second shooter was not set yet, but he shot, and maybe the first shooter was hurried because the cop was coming up on the side of on the roof. Oh, shoot. He gets accelerated. Maybe they're supposed to time their shot when Trump says that thing or whatever. He fires quick. Second shooter fires. By that time, Trump has already been whizzed. He's down. Yeah. And I know there's great audio analysis. I've seen several of them. Knox says, happy Monday, y'all. Crazy that someone got this video. They cannot lie to us like they used to. Yeah. And I got to imagine, Knox, there's just a ton more. It's probably just, people are probably nervous about putting it out. Everybody in the local community is probably talking about it. Did you get your video? They're all sharing that video. Here's where I was. Here's where you were. What's going on? Lady Ice says, my hypothesis is the first 3 are crooks. The next 5 are trigger-happy, nervous cop aiming at the roof. Third shot, one of the snipers from closer, maybe the window, or the last is the furthest sniper. This one from Knox is sharing from the dossier. I forgot about this one. Congress gave Kamala Harris $425 billion. It's about the broadband access plan, $42.5 billion to build out broadband. Yeah, that was wild, and nothing happened there. Knox says not one customer is connected to her broadband project. I saw a letter from them. It's sick. $50 billion funneled away. Lady Ice says, so now we know that if or when Trump wins in an uncheatable landslide, he plans on inciting his Antifa mob in insurrection to overthrow the government. They have to tell us that they can't help it. They accuse you of what they do. This old guy says, Joe just experienced the Democrats' version of term limits. Yeah, they coup you out of there with 25th Amendment threats. Knox says, who keeps reelecting Elizabeth Warren? Her own husband won't even have a beer with her. Those are the most awkward videos where she's like, hi, husband. It's great to be home in the house that we share together. What are you doing tonight? Hello, wife. It's great to have you home in our commonly shared abode. She's like, would you like to have an alcoholic beer with me? Sure, wife, I'd love to. And then she like opens it and she like puts her whole mouth over the bottle. Oh, like, have you ever drinking from a bottle before? Ever? Strange person. Lady Ice, they always talk about how he did the most or accomplished the most or unprecedented. All true, but in the negative. Tobo says Jake Tapper lets Warren lie to his audience without any challenge. I guess so. The whole show's a lie, so whatever. He's like, actually, today wasn't that bad of lies. Hey, Lady Ice says, I think no age limits. But if older than, say, 70, they need to take an annual cognitive test. Roy says, so if Biden wants a president to nominate 1 every 2 years, that's 4 in 2 terms. That's either packing the court with 4 extra, or does the president also decide which justice gets removed? Boopsy says, thanks for the work today, Rob. Can you summarize what we learned from those new videos? Is it just reinforcing our suspicions, or is it something new? Well, I don't know if it kind of depends on what your suspicions are, I suppose. So I think it's new evidence. I think that the major distinction was that we learned that there's probably another 30 minutes or so of time that they had him in their sights. We also know that the sniper texted them right early when he was at the picnic table. So I think it's, to answer your question and your framing, I don't know what your suspicions are, but if you have suspicions that the Secret Service failed catastrophically, I think it confirms those suspicions. If you have suspicions like there was a second shooter or something like that, I don't think it's additive to that at all. I think it's just more reaction before the shooting took place. We got to see that the police were freaked out, essentially. And then after the fact, I think it confirms a lot of what we saw, but it's even worse than we thought. It's just the incompetence or the intentionality is even greater than it was before by about 30 minutes specifically. Probably a fair summary. What's up? Sergeant GPS says, happy 24 months as a membo, John McGarvey. 24 months as a membo in the house to John McGarvey. And Spud says, Mitch McConnell is the fifth turtle. Heroes and a half bump. McConnell power. Yeah, something like that from Spuds. So amazing, amazing comments over there, my friends. And thank you so much for sending those in. Yes, Zach Nichols is over on Locals, also sharing the Matt Lautner video, which is great. Thank you, Zach, for doing that one. And so, my friends, what a tremendous day. Let's say hello to our friends on the X platform before we wrap it up, because we're going to go hang out on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com for a little bit of a members only after party. And then we'll be back tomorrow from the regular studio, where I also will complain about my internet from time to time. Hey, what's up? Jim is in the house. Jim says, good to see you over on X. What's up, Jim? Says, I don't mean to brag, Jim, but I've won the same amount of primaries as Kamala Harris. Incredible. Incredible work you have. Fred says, any thoughts on when Kamala wins the 101 million votes? More votes than ever. 400 million. That's more people than in America, but she's historic. James Pepper, what's up? And Tony, yeah, very strange, very weird lady indeed. Another body cam footage shows 5 casings. And yeah, the internet was just bad, which is why I think that the video frames per second was like -1. You had to like actually color in the frames today. So apologies for that. And it's working like right now. It's like, actually now it's not. Now it's back down to 1 bar on my end. So we made it. We tried our best, my friends, to make it work, but we will edit and upload some hopefully higher quality videos later on today. I am just grateful we got to spend a little bit of time together as we wrap it up on our adventures out in the wild. We'll be back in the valley tomorrow. Hey, what's up? Stan says, yeah, paying close attention to Venezuela, we might be in the same boat this winter. Absolutely, no doubt about that. And I think a lot of people are concerned about that. That's why we're all saying it needs to be too big to rig. Here's another one from our friends on Rumble. E-Tex Sly. What's up? E-Tex Sly says Maduro, speaking of Maduro, says Maduro packed the Supreme Court in Venezuela. He turned that nation into a veritable dictatorship with roving motorcycle gangs who supported him. Sounds about like what we've got cooking in the United States as well. And they like to test their techniques in other countries before they bring it here to the States. So, my friends, we are going to wrap it up right there. Locals, hang around. We're going to do our debrief and our after party over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. My friends, we'd love it if you joined us, but if not, we're going to be back here tomorrow to do it all again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very, very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.